Hey guys, what's up? Tonight my guest speaker is Robert. I have in description what's going on. Robert is a TI and my friend and my supporter, and Robert is using the HRC Human Rights Commission to fight with him against being a target. The HRC are great people. To my knowledge, Robert has already won one case. Now, we're having an issue, tech issue for the data on his phone. So the interview might lag a little bit. It might be kind of like choppy, but we are working here on getting him some more funds on GoFundMe to get what he needs. So I'm waiting on Robert to come on backstage and I will put him on the panel. So waiting on Robert to be on backstage here. I'll put him on as soon as I see him. This whole thing here, again, the same goal is to help people that are TIs. It's one huge bubble, but different divisions. And we're here to support one another. We're a family in this. Just text Robert. But yeah, anyway, guys, we're having a small problem with the issue, but he should be here any moment. Hello, Angel, darling. How are you, Angel? Angel. All right, so I see Robert. So again, I want to introduce Robert to the show and go from there. Hello, you are live.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. You are live. How are you?
Okay, good. A little bit stressed out, but
I did mention, yeah, I
I'm
did
good. I'm good. I'm
mention
good.
that we are having the data issue. It might lag a little bit, but it's okay. We're here to get you funds for your phone. That way it can keep doing your job and fighting against the
Keep trucking.
people. Yeah.
Right. Okay,
So,
good. Well,
sorry, I had a cough. Sorry. So this is Robert, a TI, and again, he is fighting with the HRC against being a TI. And I wanted again to announce you have already one case. You're doing a great job. You're doing a good thing for people, and I'm gonna give the floor to you. So go for it.
okay. Hi everybody. Sorry about the lag. Phone's on empty. So I just wanted to say hello to everyone and thanks for everyone that's and the host. I appreciate it. If at any time I lag, just interrupt and tell me to repeat. Okay? Can you hear me?
It's going.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's going in and out a little bit. I I'm trying to see. Do you want to possibly move to a different direction of the room? That might help the area. I don't know.
Okay. Um.
I'm
Sure.
trying to figure out if a different area of the room might be better.
Okay. Is
Yes, I
this a
can
little
hear you.
better? Okay. So I can't see who's in the chat or who's not. So I'll just say hi to everybody that's here to support me and the host. And if I lag, please interrupt me and stop me so I can say what I need to say. Okay.
No problem. No problem. You're good.
Okay. So basically, my targeting started in my early 20s. I was a part of sort of like a subgroup of intuitives. I've worked in the metaphysical field my whole life, and in Kelowna, BC. And basically, I was told to go to Victoria, BC, and investigate masonry work, which I had no idea what masons were. I didn't know any of this, the connotations that this would bring, any of the issues with it. So I ended up going to Victoria, BC, and I asked a lot of questions, the M word too many times. And that's kind of where my story starts. That's a story for another time. So um, basically, after moving to Vancouver shortly afterwards and realizing that I was being and businesses and the horrible treatment and the things that I saw. I didn't know what targeting was. I'd never heard of it. And I was young. I was an intuitive. I mean, I just moved to a town with 20 bucks in my pocket and I go do readings and I'm fine, right? So I had no idea that's just the mechanics of the real world. We all know that really existing, at least that it was so focused on individuals. So, and this is in my 20s. So I basically traveled through from province to province. I went into hiding in BC up in Kootenays for a little bit, and some friends of mine kind of like hid me. I did readings privately. I kind of stayed alive. I reached out to different organizations, different groups. No one would write back about the ongoing issues that I was going through. I had no idea what I was going through. I was naive. I was 22, maybe 23. And so I just basically I stopped in Alberta. I saw my mother, who I hadn't seen in like 10 years, because I left home at the age of 11, just to see if there was anything more than DNA keeping us together, which there wasn't. So I ended up stopping in Saskatchewan. I stayed at a monastery, a Catholic monastery. I literally walked up to the abbey and said, I'm a gay. So basically, it was like I stayed for 2 weeks and just I was right here. I had no idea what was going on. And literally, when I stopped in Saskatchewan, I stopped and I went. Didn't even know I was in Saskatoon. I didn't know anyone. Didn't know where to go. Didn't know where to stay. And the first thing I did is I went to a local MP's office and I said, I need your help. I don't know what's happening. And he said, basically, officially, I don't know what you're talking about. Unofficially, there's many of you. You're not alone. You need to keep a low profile and you need to go into hiding in an obvious way. I had no idea what he's talking about. But he knew, he was aware of what was happening. So this was like 20 years ago. And so I had gone into Saskatchewan. I stayed in the monastery with the monks, like old school monks. Like they were in vows of silence for like 10 years and shit. Like it was pretty amazing. And I got to the point where I was no longer in a fear space. And I just kind of, you know, sat and rested for the first time in probably a year. And then, stayed at reservation after that with Native people. And I went in and I told my story. We did sweats together. I studied Sioux and Cree practices, and I lived traditionally. So, like, where if a woman's on her cycle, the woman doesn't do any cleaning, doesn't touch anything. So it's like the traditional living. And I'd been there for a few months, if I recall, and I was a spiritual advisor right away for many people in the community. I wouldn't say sacred, but they hold the two spirited community on a very high pedestal, especially one that had gone through what I'd gone through. And they did something called being putting out. So what they do is when they put you out, they leave you out in the bushes with only water and like vitamins, no blanket, no tent, no nothing. And so basically you go out and you meditate for the forest spirits speak to you basically, and then you go back and you go to sweat right away. you eat bannock, which is really heavy, and then you go like on like this spiritual trip, and then you talk about it afterwards. And so after I got comfortable and I finally was in a place where I felt protected, and these people were like family. I want to tell him that I wanted him to let me go, but I knew that the world was getting worse, and I couldn't hide from it. So I had literally gotten off the radar of being targeted at the time, and my Aboriginal brothers and sisters wouldn't have allowed anyone to come near me, because of the position and the role I played in the community, and that I was a warrior and also a healer in their traditions. And so basically, George had said, "Now leave me here," and he just kind of looked at me like, "What?" Like, and I just said, "Leave me here and don't come back for me, because I need to keep going. Something's really wrong in the world, and it's not fair for me to stay in this place and be comfortable when there's other people hurting." And I didn't understand targeting at the time. I didn't know. I just was like, this is the work I have to do. And I did. So I kept traveling east, and I stopped in different places. I did readings. I worked so many jobs. A team leader for kids leaving gang life, Aboriginal kids leaving, the gang life that, basically had to be killed or beaten out. And, I did stuff like that. And I worked in restaurants and as a chamber person, and then I did readings in the evening. And so I basically survived, kind of leaving my past behind me, what had happened to me in British Columbia, the whole first targeting thing. And let me tell you, it felt like the whole city was against me. Like no one would let me in, and everyone knew who I was, and I had no idea what was going on. Can you still hear me
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, sometimes it goes in and
Hello?
out. I can get the gist of it, but sometimes it goes in and out, like a few words here and there. Okay,
Okay. Okay. But you can just stop me if there's a point that you need me to repeat,
okay,
okay?
yeah,
Okay. And so basically from that point, I was stopping in each province, kind of doing soul searching stuff, working with different spiritual groups and teachers. And I had traveled through. I think Manitoba was the only province I didn't actually stop to live in. And I got through to Ottawa. I had nowhere to go, and I ended up moving to a place called Rockland. And I ended up setting shop there and doing readings, from my landlords. He owned the restaurants that were below my apartments, and so I ended up doing readings there. And that's kind of where I think the targeting really began, because I'd stopped somewhere kind of public. So anyway, I ended up, there was some slander going on, and people in the community were coming to me going, "Do you know what these people are saying about you?" And so like that's how the first human rights event occurred. But it wasn't because of targeting. It was because of homophobic slander, and I was just basically like, I had to be talked into it. And it was funny now that I think about it. I think that the only person that I ever told what had happened to me in my past about the targeting thing, she's the one that talked me into filing against these people. So, and I had no lawyer. I didn't even know what a rebuttal was. I didn't know what a courthouse looked like. And so I basically had to learn the process, and I beat him. I was working with P Flag, which is Friends and Family Members of Gay, Lesbian, and Transgender People. I was doing meetings with the mayor. I was getting things done in 3 months that regional directors couldn't get accomplished in 10 years. So like I became an honorary member with no education, like a grade 9 education. And they're like, "Hey, we need you on board." And I found that even the gay community was supporting me in sort of their cause, which I didn't understand. This is where I think the targeting sort of kicked in. And so anyway, when I won the case and I pissed off an entire city,
right.
less, I basically was like, I ended up moving to Ottawa and moved into basically a perp house. The guy that owned it was a biker, and then he started shit with me. And so he done some blatantly nasty shit to me. And once again, still didn't realize I was being targeted. I think a part of me just didn't want to realize that or look at it that way. And I ended up taking him through the courts. And it was funny because Housing Help, an organization that deals with people in poverty that are dealing with discriminatory issues with landlords, they couldn't get this guy for 10 years. I basically collaborated all the files through Housing Help, and beat this guy. So that's how I ended up winning that. But once again, it wasn't under the premises of targeted individuals. It was human rights, and the second one was more so like a landlord tenancy, but it went to the human rights field, right? So,
Yes, yes.
are you still with me? Okay, so basically, the last 15 years of my life have been in downtown Ottawa. I lived at 46 Nelson Street, this beautiful apartment. It was right downtown by the market. And I'd set up shop and started doing readings. I worked at Adorit and a few different places where they're like these hippie clothing lines, and I just set up cards outside and just, and that's how I get my clientele base. It doesn't take me long at all, and the targeting had died down. So I really didn't think that I was being targeted, but I think that the building was just filling up with them at the time. So, and I worked in the non-for-profit sector. I was volunteering. Sorry,
Yes, I can hear you. No,
were you going to say
I
something?
can hear
Sorry.
you. You're only roboting like sometimes. I can get the gist of what you're saying. You're fine. You're fine. Keep going.
Okay. All right.
It's okay.
Sorry. Really phone.
We can always do
So
a part
basically,
two.
2000. Well, hopefully my tools would be a little better. So basically, what had happened is 2018. And I was volunteering and working in the vulnerable sector like hardcore for the last 10 years. I just did enough readings to survive. Because patterns. So when I get signs and people come to me, with certain things, and if I feel like I'm not helping, I'm not realizing that they're not heard, so I feel like I'm doing something wrong. So basically, I ended up becoming a prisoner in my house and just working full time in the community, doing fundraising for different organizations. I'd done missing person cases with the police. I was reading people that I volunteered with where it was like it was sort of that we weren't allowed. I shouldn't have been working with them because they were like regional director and stuff, but their sister had gone missing or their brother had died of something and they wanted to find out what had really happened. So like I was doing inside work and I was also working in the community avidly. I was a human rights advocate. I was advocating for all kinds of different things. I was in bed bug treatment programs. I was working with Acorn, advocating for human civil rights and poverty and all that kind of stuff. So in 2018, well, 2017, a young man had moved in, very young man, very good looking, modelish, pretty boy kind of thing, a bad boy. He liked to freestyle with the brothers in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. And it was interesting because right away, one of the first things I said to him when I met him, when we finally kind of spoke by ourselves, I said to him, I said, know, how long are you going to take this girl down the rabbit hole? Because I knew that he was using drugs and that he was pulling her into it, and she was only like 18, had a kid that was about to go into foster care. And so I ended up staying in their lives. I knew he was bad news, but I ended up staying in their lives to kind of make sure she was okay, 2 floors down. So I would go and I would get her to come to the drop-in center, and I would look out for her, and I'd make sure she was okay. I'd bring them food that was supposed to go into my house, and I bring it to them to make sure she was eating and he was eating because he was working, and little did I know he was doing other things on the side. And this young man had hit on me in a few times when the girlfriend wasn't around. It was very uncomfortable. And this guy was young and good looking, 21. He did TV commercials, stuff like that. He was, everybody loved this guy kind of guy. And I didn't understand. And around that same time, things were happening where people were moving in below me and beside me in adjacent apartments. And they would cut my cable and they would do weird things like, or I'd go to take a shower and the line would be cut, like the hot water would go off all of a sudden or go on all the way, or like just a lot of stuff, which I didn't connect the dots, which was to the whole targeting thing. And so 2018, and this is in between landlords, a new landlord had taken over a bunch of stuff. And so there was a real feeling of like I wasn't doing my job as an intuitive. Because I always see things in synchronicities and patterns, and I wasn't bringing people to the light, so to speak. Like this young guy and I, doing better, and not dragging people into his pain. And we talked intensely about his past. Like I knew about his grandfather being in the military, and his mother suffered that disease where it's like a crab hand. You know, the lobster, the circus used to hire them. Well, his family suffers the genetics of that, and so like, and he used to pick on her, and so it's a systematic line of abuse. And so I'd worked with him over and over and over, and every once in a while he would hit on me, and it would make me like I wouldn't even address the conversation. And one day, the summer of 2018, my neighbor who started acting really violent towards me and with no reason, he was just a drug dealer kind of dude. I didn't know him and I didn't care to know him. I didn't hang out with him. I was nice to him a few times, but when he started being a jerk, I didn't bother. He attacked me outside and people were videotaping it. And I hate dealing with the cops because especially the cases
Hey,
in
Robert,
Rockland, I knew that the cops were going to be pricks to me, even though I was the victim.
I
And
have a question. I'm
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. I have a question. Okay, so
hello.
Angel wants to know what is the
Okay.
amount that you need for your phone for your campaign?
Oh, well, well, it's protected because it has all the documentation, and everything on it from the phone does. But basically because even Revenue Canada and a lot of the city services are withholding my like taxes and stuff like that. That they've been in process since September.
You robot for 1 second. What now? Can you repeat that?
So basically, all of that's being kind of held back. So I 350 to maintain as a to pay off because I've been running on debt. So basically 350 for the phone, which I feel really weird. Just
You're you're having a robot issue. Did you say it was 400 or I couldn't hear you? I'm sorry.
about my debt.
Wait, you're kind of roboting again. Can you repeat that again? The price you said? You said it was 300? 4? I'm sorry.
Oh, good God.
I know it's not your fault. It's a data issue. It's not your fault. You can type it in chat if you want. You were having a small tech issue. It's not Robert's fault. Um so Canadian issues is they are withholding his money, and we have a campaign we're trying to get out there. It's his campaign, but I'm trying to help him with it. Yeah, we're having an issue with his tech, with his data. It's low. Again, he can't help that. But we're trying to get to his goal because his phone is his livelihood to fight against the people for his justice.
And
Okay, I'm going to text him, let him know that I lost him. We will have a part two. Um, he's actually in the basement of a place for more privacy. So the basement is how it is, you know how that goes. But we will have a part two very soon. But yeah, it's not his fault. It's just an issue lagging and roboting is it, it's okay, Robert. It's okay. Don't worry about it. So I just text him. Yeah, you don't gotta apologize, man. It's okay. It happens. It's fine. Anyway, yeah, don't feel sorry. It's okay. Just come back. Come back, Jack. Come back. Yeah, we're gonna have a part two eventually. But yeah, I put the campaign in the chat that explained what the HRC is again. Let me go ahead and put it on chat again. Okay, I'm gonna add the I am going to put in right now the GoFundMe campaign that we were trying to help him out here. Let's see. Okay. This is his actual GoFundMe campaign. We have been out there for over a week now to promote this, to help him out. Canada, yeah, they are having his money withheld. So that's why he cannot get the update on the phone. That's why we're doing this. Okay, he's backstage. One moment. Okay, you were back.
I'm so I'm
It's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
like,
It's okay. Don't worry about it. I posted your campaign in the chat for you. I was telling Angel and
okay.
Generations that again, Canada has withheld your money, and therefore we got a campaign also to raise the money for your livelihood because your phone is helping fight get your justice.
Well, and it's also kind of keeping me safe because after my home had been destroyed and I lost it a second time by arson by my landlord. Little did I know it was part of the whole targeting thing. I had ran for it and I ended up in actually a senior center. This is where I am now in a town called Castleman, and they told me I'd be safe here, and they said that I wouldn't it wouldn't come inside, and they lied. And so I've been starved and I've been taken off property. I've been held on property illegally. And so now I'm restarted and open to file with HRC again with this place. And I basically am now stuck here in a town where everyone hates me and they don't even know who I am. So yeah, it's been pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Can
I
you still
mean,
hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Again, it's only a robot in one from a different word. Uh, I'm wondering, can you possibly go to other corner to see it might be a different area? I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll try going
I
outside.
mean, I am putting in chat what's going on. I am putting in chat what you were saying too on key points about the campaign and key points.
Right. Yeah. Because the targeting had followed me in. It's been relentless and it hasn't stopped. It's basically come inside, and I was fooled into believing that I'd be safe here, and it really isn't. So I've kind of decided to hold on one second. I gotta walk through the building.
Hi, Avalon. Welcome to the show. We're just trying to get Robert to maybe a different place to see if the roboting will cease. Yeah, it's not his fault. It's the phone issues.
Okay. Okay. Is this a little better?
Oh yes, I can hear you
Okay.
perfectly
You know
now.
what it is? It's because I was in the building. I know it's kind of weird. God, I'm too
Amen.
fat and old for this shit. Okay.
It's all good. It's all good. So
Actually,
I put in the chat about your GoFundMe. I discussed about the issue, why we're doing a GoFundMe for you. We're trying to get out there.
okay.
So we have in chat that you were homeless, you were thrown into. So go back to where you
Well,
are right now.
yeah, and I was trying to cut it short. I'm so sorry. I'll try to make it really quick. So basically, what
It's
had
okay.
happened, I was physically assaulted by my neighbor. Because I was talking about the young couple that I was helping. There was a point to that. My neighbor had attacked me. It had been videotaped. I had to call the police, knowing that they would make a mockery of the whole process because I was the victim, right? And so basically, the police came and they laughed and they snickered, and they could see because I didn't fight back against this guy. I would have probably broken his neck. But so I just turned my body, and so I had goose eggs in the back of my neck or back of my head. I had marks all over my body, and so they basically laughed and stuff. And I said the only reason why I called you is because I want to press charges because I know this new landlord's trying to get rid of me. and I didn't understand at the time that it was because of the targeting. And so when the police left, I had phoned the station and said, "What is the status of the file?" And they said, "There is no status because you had said that you didn't want to press charges." And I went, "Bull fucking shit, I didn't." So, so,
Right?
um, so basically, the police were interfering right away, and so I had gone down because to deal with the police because they didn't come for like for 4.5 hours after this guy attacked me in broad daylight. And I wasn't drinking because I was upset about the attack. I was drinking because I had to deal with cops and I knew they were going to be nasty. And so what I basically had done is I had finished like a 2-6er by the time the cops left because they were just assholes to me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I'd gone down to the young man's place. The girlfriend was gone, and I went down and because this is a guy that the young man I was talking about, the 21-year old, and I was counseling him and his girlfriend. I put endless hour and time. I was giving them food from out of my fridge. And I just went down and I just collapsed because I hate dealing with cops. And I just started crying. And I'm just like, I just need comfort. Like, tell me I'm gonna be okay. Like what is wrong with people? And he literally like left me in his apartment on the floor crying. And this is after like months and months of me helping him and his girlfriend and counseling her, and she'd be depressed and she cut her wrists up and he'd go around doing his yo homie G bullshit. So he ended up leaving and I ended up passing out on his floor crying because I had drunk so much and I continued drinking for a while. And I woke up the next day upstairs in my room and I didn't remember anything that had gone on. Well, then I remembered the next day when I was with a client of mine and we went out drinking at a local bar, and I basically started remembering what had happened. So not only was I physically assaulted, I was sexually assaulted by two different neighbors. And if the cops basically lied and falsified documentation about a physical assault, let me tell you what they do about a sexual assault. Absolutely fuck all. So this was 2018, the summer of, and I continued working and volunteering and helping his girlfriend out and bringing food, um, and all that kind of stuff. But once again, I didn't realize it was because of targeting. And then I had neighbors who were cutting my telephone wires, like my cable ran from the guy below me. And because I suffer PTSD, if I don't have a TV and like two radios going, I end up um, flailing my body and breaking all like the vessels in my arm and stuff. And so, in a nutshell, I basically had said to the young man, because I didn't understand, I'm like, "You're young and beautiful. I'm not rich. I'm not good looking. I'm fat. Like, there's nothing, you can't extort my abilities." Because he was a drug user. So he's all about extortion. And I'm like, "There's nothing I can give you. Like, why did you take my body?" Like, you tried it when we were sober. And I said, "No, why would you do it when it was like, anyway." So I basically had told him, because at that point I was so broken by everything that was happening in my life. And I was still volunteering. I was painting murals for the city. They actually offered me commission and I refused because I didn't want money for it. That's sort of my penance because I felt like I was failing as an intuitive, as a spiritual person. And I was basically punishing myself. But I continued giving them food out of my fridge. I stopped doing readings. And I basically ended up working with this young man for about 2 months because I told him, I said, "You took from me something you can never give back." And I said to him, I'll give you what you didn't give me." And I said, "A choice." I said, "Either I can go and take you with me," because at this point I was completely defeated. I'd lost all my, like, I just was so destroyed by the way everyone was treating me, including the police. "Or you can have an aha fucking moment and start doing right." And I said, one of the conditions was that he needed to do something selfless that would either cost him a great deal of money or a great deal of time in perspective to money, and do something for someone, and he could never tell them. Only I would know. And so that selfless act was the only way I would know that he actually got it, because he was afraid of consequence. So needless to say, I worked with him, and one day he came to me and he actually written me a confession, a full confession to the rape and how he used to beat me when all I was doing was helping him. It's on my channel. There's the full confession is there because he actually written and said he agreed to leave the confession. And I told him I didn't want a confession, and then he bailed and left me on the floor in pieces. And I was just like, so there's nothing left, because I saw these assholes below me cutting the cable, and every time I took a shower, the hot water would go on full. I had scorches all over my body. I was volunteering all day. wouldn't sleep for days. I got heavily into the alcohol, even into some drugs, because I just didn't know how to deal with anything. And yeah, so basically, then I got into it with the landlord, and this was 2018. Then 2019, a new landlord took over, and I was still dealing with the guy because the guy that physically assaulted me lived across the hall from me, and the guy that sexually assaulted me lived on the first floor. So I had to cross both of them to go in and out of the building. And like the police wouldn't do anything. None of the organizations that I'd worked with for fucking 15 years would do nothing about this. And so I finally got to this point, like, I was just broken and I thought I'd failed. Um, I just thought I'd failed at everything in such a huge way that sorry, but it wasn't me. It was the system that had failed. It was the people, because I was still protecting this young man. And I'd gone to counselors and the resource center director that dealt with all of the non-for-profits in our area. She picked me up off of his bathroom floor. They failed me. They failed him. So long story short, the new landlord that came in, he sorry, he was an asshole. And the guy that lived across that physically assaulted me, even though he pled guilty, he was still allowed to come back. And he was cutting my cable, and I believe they were going into my room, but they were cutting the hot water off every time I would go into the shower. He would wait for me to go in, and then he'd change the water around, and like shit was still happening. And this new landlord came in, and I knew what he was doing. He was going to gentrify. In other words, he's buying the whole apartment, kick everybody out, and then renovate it and add, like 2 zeros at the end of the bill. And I said to him, like, because he would show up, and I'm like, I need to speak to you about some of the residents that are, or some of the tenants that are living here, and their stuff's still going. And so, can you just? And he wouldn't sit and talk to me, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, okay, and I set an appointment. I was suffering PTSD so bad at the time, I could barely even breathe when I walked out the door. And so I said to him, I said, okay, well, let's meet at your office, which happened to be right beside the police station. Yay me. And I walked all the way there in the middle of winter, and I showed up with my rapist confession in my hand and all the shit that I'd gone through and the police report and everything else, and he didn't even show up. And I realized that like everyone was just fucking with me. And so he came back and he had a notice to all the tenants saying he was going to pay out everybody like $4,000, like a payout, so that he could take over. And then you had 2 months to find a place. And I was like, not until you hear what I have to say. Like, as long as I'm here, I need you to do your job, your due diligence as a landlord. Because I knew at that point they were fucking with me, but I didn't understand why. And so, and these are big, they're buying up like massive apartments on our city block, like entire city blocks. These are $1 billion deals, right? And I said to him, I looked him in the eye and I said, if you don't do your job and you don't listen to what I'm having to say, I'm going to hold my feet down, and I guarantee you, I'm going to beat you in this. I've never lost a case. My grade 9 education, and I haven't lost a case. And he snuffed me off, and they did nasty shit, cutting the breaker and the power and all kinds of nasty shit. This is me. I'm still suffering the trauma, and my rapist is downstairs partying it up with his dealers, which wasn't safe. And the guy that physically assaulted me is right across the hall, banging on my door every time he walked by. Police would just laugh at you. And so I ended up going through December of 2019, I think it was, to the LTB, which is Landlord Tenancy Board, and I ended up challenging him. And because it's always a generic release or eviction notice, so it's like always like bed bug treatment and rodents, right. Well, and I worked in all these fields. I worked with different organizations and shit. And so basically, I knew it wasn't bed bug treatment stuff or bed bugs, because I worked in that field. I worked with Heartwood House and different organizations. And so I challenged him, and I found out. I realize now that the arbitrator for the LTB was a perp, because she had turned to him and said, "You have no grounds to stand on. This guy has basically fucked you up." So, and then she went into recess instead of making her decision there, which would have relinquished all the shit that was going on. She said, "I'll get back to you after Christmas." And so February 13th of last year, one of the residents, who's a perp, I know she's a perp, basically falsely accused me of threatening her. And I have no criminal record, no history of violence, nothing. And so what the police did, all the perp police showed up, pulled me out my underwear, took me to the prison. And this is after they left me in the police car in the middle of winter, February last year, or of February 2 years ago. Sorry. And they basically said you made my bail conditions that I can't go back into my apartment because it was considered domestic, which the girl lives on another floor. I didn't even realize she was even in the building. So basically, like, so this gave the landlord, he thought he'd won. So when the arbitrator came back and said, you know, he had lost his case, he needs to re-come up with a new case. Well, COVID-19 and all this shit had already kicked in, and they couldn't really file anything. So I could live there rent free, and there'd be nothing he could do. So basically, the universe was kind of backing me up, but these assholes play unfair, right? And so the police came, they took me to the police station. I literally stayed in holding for 2 days in my underwear on a cold slab in the middle of winter. They literally left the car doors open, turned the engine up, and did paperwork for 2 hours while all the perps circled around the car and watched me. And all I said is, "You fucking pricks." Like, that's all I can think of is, "You fucking
Right?
pricks." Because I'm like,
Hell
and I
yeah.
turned to the cop. I turned to the cop in the front, and I said to him, and I said, "Understand one thing and one thing only. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and this will come back against you." And like, I don't know if it freaked them out or what it did, because they closed the cop car doors and they drove off, and they took me to. They didn't put me in Innis, like an actual prison, and like they did nasty things. Like they would handcuff me to a guy that was claustrophobic and put me in the 2-man area, a stainless steel box in the back of the transport truck. Like, like this guy would be like
Wow.
smashing his head. Yeah, no, no, you don't even understand. And so I put my hand over his. I thought he's gonna beat me up, and I put his hand against the steel, and I said, "Let the cool of the steel calm your heart." And he just went, ugh, and he fell into me, and he says, "Tell them on the outside what's happening in here, how they treat people with mental illness." Never once did I cry for myself. Never once was I scared for me. I was scared for these people. They put me in a they put me in a cell with a guy named Cop Killer.
Oh my
And he
lord.
ended up no, we ended up talking till 2 in the morning while he did a mural. I mean, like, literally, whenever they put me in danger, the cops would be pissed off afterwards because I would always win these people over, because I wasn't the problem, I wasn't the issue, and they knew it. So anyway, long story short, I got out. I went into a shelter like a block and a half from my house, which is really fucked up. They put me in a shelter. I stayed there for a week, and then all the taunting, everything, and my rapist, all his drug dealer buddies hung out at the shelter. And this is Salvation Army, and this is what happened is they're very plugged into the perp chirp, right? Like, they're all people, because it's all drug dealers and drug
Mm-hmm.
runners, and they use these people horribly. Like, they extort people that are so impoverished or addicted to drugs, and this is how they function. And this is supposed to be a Christian organization, and basically, like, I got in there, and I was so sick from being in the prison with no clothes that when I got there, I got sick, and they gave beds to the rapists, they gave beds to the drug dealers, they gave beds to the murderers. They made me sleep on a radiator out in the hallway where the staff would slam doors, and that was, I didn't realize that was the sound interruption, that's the torture. Like, that's a part of it, like the honking of the horns, the flashing of the lights, and I had no idea. I was just like, I don't care what went wrong, I wasn't in the wrong here. And so, like, all this stuff, and then like the issues with the rape, and the police, and basically the head of the sexual crimes unit declared that there was no way, that he's never in 40 years seen any victim get a confession from his rapist. And I'm like, that's on your guys' part, not mine. I can't help that your people are incompetent. I did it because I speak to people's hearts. That's the difference. And like, I was a mouthy bitch, but like, I was losing everything. What do you expect? So,
Right.
after I'd won my home back and everything else, I was basically chased out of the city. No one would take my money. I was constantly followed around. I would spend, like, during the LTB while I was waiting for the arbitrator to get back, I would spend my days at the LTB office studying, and then I would go from coffee shop to coffee shop around Ottawa, of course, where I was harassed, but it was safe enough, and with no sleep. And I would study at night, and sometimes I'd get into the bathroom and I'd sleep for maybe 15 minutes, and then I'd get up because they chase you around and shit. So I basically won my case while I was homeless and no food or nothing. And literally, when my landlord realized I was winning, he's like, "I'll give you 6,000. I'll give you 10,000." I'm like, this was never about money. This was about respect as a human being, and they just refuse. They just refuse. So, and I told him, if you do this, I will drag my feet. And so anyway, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go back to my apartment because the bail conditions still stood. my landlord wasn't going to, and I knew she had left because she was in the system. They subsidized her. But I couldn't get my landlord to admit it, so I couldn't go back to my apartment, and I couldn't stay anywhere in the city because I was chased out of everywhere. So I literally had walked out of the city clutching during, this was last February, so this was during the winter, during a blizzard. I'd walked out of the city, walked out of the city of Ottawa, with just one change of clothes, clutching the papers, the documents stating that I won my LTB case and my rapist confession. Because this is what it comes back to. It's not about the LTB, it's about my rapist. I promised him I'd hold him responsible if he didn't fulfill his end of the bargain. And like, um, and so literally I walked from county to county, and every community I went into, the police would be in right behind me. I'd walk in, it would be fine. I'd sit down and have coffee. I'd be talking to the patron of the restaurant or whatever. Everything would be fine. And the minute that I would go out or go to the bathroom, a cop would come in. All of a sudden, get this goof out of here. And it would always change. The narrative would always change. So every community you go into, it's fucked up. It's like the cop comes in, and it was police that were coming in. And I knew that they were doing this. And so I'd always go up to the police and go, I hope you have a good day, sir. And I'd walk on, and I continued. People offered to stop and pick me up, but I trusted no one at this time, because anytime someone offered any help, it was always sabotage. And this is a guy that lost his home not once, but twice in 6 months, was raped and physically assaulted, had a confession from his rapist, and the police just mocked him right out of the police station, held in prison falsely. And I've got documents showing two different statements from the accuser, that from the LTB court, she had made a statement for the landlord stating I went to her room, or that she followed me up the stairs, which she did. And then the police statement was I followed her to her room, which was false. But she made two opposing statements. This girl's got a history of violence, and they're still trying to put me in jail. They want to give me a month in Innis. I'm still awaiting my court case. It's going to be for next year, though, because of this whole COVID bullshit. So, up until this point, so I get here to Castleman. I stay at a residence because it's the only place that would take me. I stayed for a couple weeks, and there was the goof they're at every time I went somewhere. Like, I would go to every Tim Hortons in every town. They would put a mop in front of the door, and they'd always have the same circus act, so I couldn't use the bathroom. And if I went pee outside, then the police would come and take me, right? So I couldn't go pee, or it's fucked up what had happened. And people would be like, "Oh, that's the bitch that thinks she's bulletproof," and I would get so like panicked and like PTSD that I would just up and leave. And I got to a point before I came to Castleman where I literally was exhausted, and my girlfriend that said she'd help me didn't even show up, and I was in her town. I was like blocks from her. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was tired of people talking about me like they knew me. And I left a copy of the confession on the table because I wanted the people there to see, which now I realize didn't matter. They don't have a soul. And then I went out into the snow, and I moved the papers onto my chest, and I fell asleep because I wanted someone to see why I was there. I wanted there to be a trail to my story, because my story has a lineage to it. Any investigator could find out what had happened. And I'd fallen asleep, and I thought it'd be the last time I would breathe, and something said, "Get up, move. There's others that need you." And I got up and I moved. So now to Castleman. I'm staying in a residential, a lot of addiction people. So right away, there's perps everywhere around me, making my life very uncomfortable. You can't challenge them or call them on it. And the director knew who I was, I'm quite certain. And they ended up moving me out of there. And one of the staff members, I never told anyone, only the directors of wherever I go, I tell them why I was there, because of the targeting. Because I didn't know what targeting was at the time, but I told them the reason, because I felt they deserved that. I owed them that in case it put them in danger. And I ended up leaving, going to another location. And I found out later, because one of the staff had asked me, "Why are you here?" And I gave her a copy of the rape confession. And I said, in a nutshell, this is why I'm here. The day I left, she was telling one of the girls that I became good friends with, who happened to also work with the Human Rights Commission. Thank you, Jesus. And she was telling everyone the day that I left that I was a rapist and never to trust me. She was telling people that I was a rapist, and that's why I was in that facility. Are you still there?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's I know
So
like your
basically,
story, but it's crazy. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I know it's hard for you, but I'm so proud of you coming forward. Just let you know.
yeah, it was good lighting. What can I say? So, so I'm just saying, wow, bitch, she's pretty. So basically, So like I got a sense of humor at least, right? I'm a fighter and a
Right.
lover. So so
Hell
I
yeah.
leave and
Hell yeah.
I found out I just lost an earpiece. Oh, now the bitch is falling apart. So so I found out that basically that they were telling this staff member was slandering me, and because one of the residents had gone to the director and to the social worker and mentioned that this was happening and was saying that I was a rapist, they asked me who their name was because the residents didn't say anything, the name. And I protected her. And I said, no, I want her to have her job because she was told to be mean to a stranger that she didn't even know. And she just had a house extension. This woman was like in her 60s. She'd never work again in the field. And I said, I want her to remember when she goes home or when she gets up to go to work, why she even has a fucking job. And that was like my Jesus moment. So basically, when I found that out, I knew I had to go back to my apartment because I'd won it over and I knew the girl was gone. And so I did. And people tried stopping me, and I knew it was going to be dangerous, but I didn't know what targeting was. I didn't know what any of it was about. And I went in, and the first day I was back, and the quarantine had just got. I moved in on the 25th of March. The quarantine went into play the next day. So there should have been no one in the entire building except me. I was the only one legally allowed to be there. And they kicked the landlord's people had kicked open my door. And so shit just went on for like 4 or 5 months. And so basically, in a nutshell, I had to work. I lost my federal mail. None of this. Uh, my phone's about to die. None of the social workers would help me. No one would help me. No one would. And I stayed in this room, and that building would fill up night after night. And because of the COVID, though, the social worker that I was talking to here in Castleman, who stayed in touch with me, is she was no longer subsidizing me. She's no longer my worker. She stayed in touch with me because the phone line went through to her house because of COVID instead of an office. So one night when the place filled up with bikers and they were kicking open the door, I ended up phoning her, going, "Okay, I'm going to give you descriptions and this is the people if I end up dead." And she picked up the phone, and I'm like, oh my god. So in a nutshell, I went through hell, and every construction worker in the city knew who I was. They tried jolting me, scaring me. They did asbestos cleaning in my apartment illegally. I mean, the Minister of Environment finally got a hold of them. Like, I had to earn everything back, all my civil rights, my federal mail, everything, because no one would do their job. This is how deep this perp shit goes, right? And finally, one person would go, "Hey, what's going on here?" And then they'd hold everybody else responsible. So by the time I finally got the city and bylaw and Minister of Environment and the Department of Health Ottawa, the director herself, who would like text me in the middle of the night going, "Are you okay?" Finally, they got a hold of my landlord, and the day they're like, "You turn his shit back on," because I had burns and radiation burns and like scars and shit all over me from the shit they were doing. And you can see it in my videos on my channel anyway. The rape confession pieces of my story are all there. And I basically, the day they said, "Turn his shit on or the city's filing suit against you," they had a fake fire. So it was the July 9th, I think it was, of this last summer. July 9th fires on Nelson Street. And CTV didn't even cover it. They said that the building was empty, and it wasn't. And the first thing I did, with no shoes or anything, and I ran right out to them and I said, "Hey, this was arson. I live here if you want the story." And no one got a hold of me. At the time, they're all like, yeah, we want to hear the story. And so basically, after I lost my apartment again, and this now to arson, I lost my home again a second time in 6 months. And I was happy. I literally went down to the places where I volunteered and places where I did murals and stuff. One of the local businesses, my girlfriend and I, we went down, and I went in, and I was so like, "Oh, the asshole burned it down." Da, 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 da. And he's like, "I go to a church. Like, no one in our church has as much joy as you, and you just got the shit kicked out of you for like the last year." And I'm like, "Because it's over. It's done." Not realizing, right? And it wasn't done. And so, in the meantime, because I was talking to the social worker, there was a residential here, and it was a seniors residence. Because I didn't want to go to a regular residence where there's mental health stuff because it would discredit my story. Because mental health issues didn't burn my fucking house down. Mental health issues didn't give me, like the issues with the police, the mental health stuff. So it was like I didn't want anyone to have the right to discredit me. So I never wanted to stay in a residential where there was people there with mental health issues. So this guy was like, "Oh no, you can stay with me." So he was in contact with me, the director of St. Francois, where I'm living now. And he was like, "No, no, no, you just every couple of weeks, you just call me, tell me if you need," and da 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 da. And he came and he picked me up from the hotel after the fire. I was in a hotel, which that's a whole story in itself. The perps and the yeah. Um, and he brought me back. And after I got back in, it was good for a month and a half, and they started starving me. And I was painting, and I was doing nails for the residents, and I go out, I make sure that none of these residents see my emotional state or how upset or hurt I am. I always made sure I came out with a smile, and I still do. And I was painting the walls for them because I do interior design and stuff, and I was like raising the value of the property. And that's when they started. I came out and one day, and the the care specialist, and she's one of the highest up, and she's a perp all the way, girls and boys. Like, this is a perp to the perp. We're talking about my body and mocking me, and they've done it a few times, and they were talking about my past in British Columbia, which no one in Ontario would even know about. And so, but then when I would catch them, and I'm like, I literally told my social worker, going, it's inside. And she didn't ask me what, who, when, or where, because she went through the whole shit with me in Ottawa. And she's like, what do you need me to do? And I'm like, don't do anything, don't say anything. I hope it's just plain old homophobia, but it's probably targeting, at this point, because she'd seen so much, and knew what I was going through. So long story short, I caught stuff on video. They've done nasty things. They have taken me off property. A staff have, and kept me off property. So when I came back, I was forced into the quarantine, like a 2-week quarantine, and then they had starved me, and then I'd have to. And I've got all this, like, emails and stuff from my social workers telling the director to reinstate my food, which is something that should never happen. So, but and still, every time I walk out the doors, I've got people going goof, rat, like all the perp stuff, and all the staff treat me like shit because of what's being told to them. I don't believe that they're all perps, but I believe they're all bullied into it. So,
You there? Did your phone die? I think his phone died. I think. Okay, I'm going to text him. I think it did die. Okay, I'm going to try to text him. I do believe here that his phone just died. So let me try one thing here. Angel. Are you still here, Angel? Yes, I think his phone died. Okay, I sent him a text. Okay, so he might be able to get back on here. If not, yes, we're going to do a part two. We already discussed this earlier today. For a part two. Yeah, we're going to do a part two if we need to. It's not a big deal. Again, the campaign for GoFundMe is in the chat, it's in description, under my video. We are trying to get the goal of what he needs. Yes, yeah, it's an ongoing goal. It's an ongoing goal because it's a phone issue, but also to get him to a safer place. Um, you all heard him out here. He came forward. I'm very proud of him. He mentioned how he was abused. Yes, he said he was raped. His rapist gave a confession. The cops laughed at him. And yeah, he's been through a lot of things, but he's helped a lot of people. He is trying to help others right now. He is trying to fight for justice with the HRC. I'm very proud of anyone that comes forward and says, hey, I've been through this. I've been abused. I need help. We want justice. My goal here is to help others and get their story out here. But yeah, again, we want these funds to help Robert get the phone issue taken care of and a much safer place to live. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure his phone died. All right, well, until I talk to Robert again, I want to say thank you, Robert, for being on here. as my guest and to explain your story. And I fully support Robert all the way. So, he's a great person. He's got a good spirit about him. I call it the warrior spirit. The warrior spirit is that we have been through so much crap, but see, you keep going forward. You keep surviving, and then the survivor turns into a warrior. And that's what matters. It matters to keep going forward, no matter what happens in life. Keep going forward. Yes, and I seen you artist. You had subbed to me today. Awesome. I have you as my subscriber on my main channel. Um, and I am so glad that you are here to support Robert because, again, we're a huge family. And it's important here to support one another and gain more support. We are a army of good to fight against the evil, to be heard and get our justice. We all deserve justice. Angel, do you want to come on here real quick? It's, your choice if you want to. You asked earlier, and yeah, it's fine. If you want to jump on now, I can send you the link. Angel, I sent the link in chat, so feel free to jump on if you like to. But again, I'm very, very proud of Robert, and I'm very glad to see his friends here tonight to support him on this. You know what? It's okay to cry. I cried on camera just 4 days ago. I cried. You know what? We had pain. We've got a lot of pain that we're going through. We are still healing. It's cool to cry. It's cool to laugh and dance and sing. We are human beings. Okay, he just texted me. The phone did die. He said apologies. It's okay, man. Don't worry about it. We can do a part two. Yeah. I really admire him and respect him for coming forward. Oh, my bad. He had texted me and I did not hit enter. So yeah, my bad. You know me, man. The queen of typos too. I am the queen of typos, I swear. I'm a goofball, I can't help it. My bad. Darling Angel. I've known Angel for like over 2 years now. Angel is a advocate for survivors of CSA. I have survived CSA myself. We have become friends and we bond on that, definitely. We are survivors and we're warriors. It's not easy to come out here, you know, on public, or sorry, in public, to announce what you've gone through. It's not easy to announce your CSA. It's not easy to say, hey, I've been abused, I've been through this. It's not ever easy. But the more you come out and discuss this, you will begin to heal. And you also will gain support like this. You'll get more and more support. And it's what we need, is support one another and not divide. Okay, so I'm going to say the intro for Angel. So here, Angel. Hello, darling.
Hello, darling.
How are you, lovely?
I'm not too bad now. Probably about 15 minutes ago, I was in bits.
Oh, with
The
his
things
story.
that Robert's actually gone through,
Mhm.
it's
Yep.
like it's amazing he's still here and carrying through.
He's been through a lot. Yeah, I know. A lot of the story. We're gonna have part two of what he could not discuss, and his phone died. It's not a big deal, but again, we're gonna have part two. It's really a lot. I mean, he was. You heard his own mouth. He came forward. He told me, "I want to come forward about my abuse too." I said, "Okay, we'll do this." He said himself. No one coached him. No one forced him. He said, "Look, I've been abused. I've been raped." His rapist gave him a confession. He went to the police, and they all
I
laughed
will
at him.
never tell someone your story isn't true, especially
Right.
someone that I've never met and I've got no evidence that their story isn't true. I wouldn't even think of and one thing I've noticed with Robert when he was speaking, sorry, I just got my earbud. When he was speaking, he spoke with clarity and he didn't only speak with clarity. I just broke. And I broke for the fact not only is he a survivor, he's also targeted. Not only is he a survivor that's targeted, he's a survivor that's a male that's targeted. And to be honest with you, men, I've seen it firsthand with children, male children. If a 14-year-old girl or a 13-year-old girl is groomed over the internet, she gets pity and support. If a 14-year-old boy gets groomed over the internet, even today, he doesn't get groomed and support. He doesn't get support. He gets basically, you know, oh, he should have known better. Why has he let that man or that woman, and why is he upset because a woman showed him her boobs? It's like because you're a boy, if a woman abuses you, you're put down for it because you're complaining. Because it's a masculine thing to jump on whatever you can. And this is what we're teaching our kids nowadays. I see I see posts of young boys being groomed and abused by their teachers. And I see men saying lucky bastard. No, he isn't. And the arsehole that's just said that has never been in that fucking position. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I've got to
Exactly.
control my mouth. I'm sorry. I know my
And it's okay.
swearing's
No, I mean
bad.
it's real. It's real aggravation and stress because of what we have seen. We are both,
Yeah. I've
survivors.
sat there and I've actually seen little boys being called perverts because they've been groomed and abused, just the same way a girl would have been. And I'm not saying the girl shouldn't have the support, she should, but we need to start supporting our sons, our brothers, our fathers, our uncles. We need to start supporting our men.
Yep.
We need to stop.
Amen, man. Amen.
We need to stop this stigma and we need to let men come out. Not when they're 40, not when they're 50, not when they've had their first child, but the moment a fucking adult comes near them and thinks that they can take the piss out of them, that they can disrespect them or they can touch them anywhere that they shouldn't be. And if you're an adult and you're confused, you don't put your hand on a child unless it's around their back, to hug them. You don't need to put your hand anywhere else apart from their shoulders. You don't need to go any further. And you make sure if
Exactly.
that child doesn't want you to, I don't care if you're the mother, father, grandfather, uncle, aunt, neighbour, if that child says, no, I don't want to hug you, don't take it as an insult. Take it as that child looking after herself and protecting herself or himself. We need to start teaching children intuition,
Hmm.
not manners, intuition.
What's also with that, it's also kids should understand from a certain age what bad touching is and
And
what
good
good touching
touching.
is.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because that's what they get older. A lot of people make jokes in school and on the school bus, and they're like, what? And they get touched. They should know what's the boundaries, what is good touching and what is bad touching, and when's it okay, like you said, to touch somebody. It's not right. I mean, your certain parts are your parts, and it's a violation and it's a boundary issue, definitely. I mean, we both were young, our abuse. I've
uh-huh.
been very open about mine. I've been open, but again, people have chastised me, and I'm like, wait, wait, wait. I didn't just go, oh, overnight. Yeah, I was molested. No, it took me 3 years to have a voice now. But honestly, I've been fighting my whole life. But 3 years now, I finally have been able to say, I got a voice now. I'm passionate. I'm blunt. I give no shits when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
pedophiles, abusers, spies, perps, you know, um, I give no shits. No one should, because you were the victim and then you're survivor, but then you're a warrior. Me and you always say
Exactly.
that. Yeah, we always say
Yeah.
warrior. But not enough
When we
people are
was
seeing
3 years old or 6 years old or anyone, whatever age, I've come across babies, newborn babies. I've had that in my head, and that's why I got out of the actual sort of like pedophile hunting business. I come out of it for my own mental state because as a survivor, it does fuck with your head a lot.
that.
Um, and a lot of the shit that you have to see, a lot of the sites you have to have shut down, because it wasn't just like catching these assholes and handing them over to the police. It was also going onto sites and people, even, you know, people that thought they was really strong and could come into this and just do it. They've walked in and 2 days later they've walked back out, or you know, they've crumbled. They've fell to bits. Pedophile hunters aren't always like, it isn't easy for them. My team, they went through so much crap. It's unbelievable emotionally because they was already going through it themselves. Even though they were adults, they were still going through it. They still had PTSD themselves. And then they had to deal with these assholes that want to go around adding children and trying to meet up with them, to have sex with them. And some, it wasn't just sex. Some were nasty, horrible. You could tell, like some of these, if it was real kids, they wouldn't just have sex with them. They'd, that child would probably be left dead.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's
And
amazing what's amazing what we've also gone through with this, because you know it's
you,
not easy.
Sharon, you've come so far. And one thing I'll say, you taught me a lot. When we first met, you said, "Oh, Angel, you're teaching me so much," and I said to you, "The young will teach the old." And what are you doing now? You're
Teaching you.
yes, you've
Hmm.
helped me heal in places I thought I was already healed. You've ripped bandages off of places I didn't even know there was ever any cuts.
Oh, I meant
You
you cry.
really, no, you really have. When I heard your story the other day, I felt a bit because I'd never heard it in detail. I knew you was abused by your granddad, and I saw what the trolls were putting out and stuff like that. And as friends, we'd never actually gone into it, but like it broke me to know what you'd gone through because I knew at the end of the day I could close my door and I knew I was safe because my mum and dad would protect me. And I'm so sorry for what you went through, Sharon. I'm really sorry.
Thank you. It's not
And
easy.
I do believe you, and I'm sorry for the arseholes that do say that, but don't let them get into your mind. You've
They
had
tried.
enough
They
shit
tried
put
last night,
into
didn't
your
they?
mind. I know.
They they tried last night, and I was in Satan's grips. I'll tell you right now, I was in the grips of Satan, and if not for certain people last night, all I can say is I'm glad people came to my aid because I was in Satan's grips most definitely, and God just like pulled me out of that because um when you're a family and you all you're survivors, you can tell, yeah, they are true, and you can actually feel how the empath. Okay, well, this person's going through this crap. I didn't know the one girl had saw the video, and she says, "Call me now." And I called her. I'm like, I am not okay. I am not okay with this. I'm not okay for somebody that claims they survived CSA and a mother. How can she ever go on camera and say this to me and what's the word, traumatize me again? I mean, is it not enough already? I went through
They're
10
doing it
years of
because they're
suffering.
disgusting.
Yeah,
They're doing it because they don't know, they either don't know how it feels or they do and they want to hurt you.
it's never okay to
Because
do that. It's never okay to hurt somebody or tell them their their abuse story. It's their abuse story. It's their light. It's their
I suffer
truth.
with PTSD, and that is one of the things, regardless of counselling or all the help that I got, I will always have that.
Yeah,
There will
me
be
too.
certain things that will bring me back.
Oh,
Sorry,
I
I
was.
didn't mean
You
to
heard
do
me.
this.
It's okay. You heard me crying the other
I
day,
should
and I
come off.
said, no, 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 no. You can cry. I cried on my stream other day, and I said, crying is human. It's emotion and it's pain. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be happy. And the thing is, if you have a soul and you're a survivor, you're gonna be upset. You're gonna cry. You're gonna be like that. I mean, I was crying on my camera. They mocked me. I'm not here for just haters. I'm not here for the Wolfpackers. I'm here for people like us that know what it's like. I mean, they want to mock me, but they weren't there. They weren't seeing what happened to me in my room, my grandpa's house.
I
They did not see this.
I know that fear of walking through the hallway, trying to just pull your nightdress down and hope that they won't wake up. Try and be like the most silent
Hmm.
that you can ever be. I know
Hmm.
that feeling.
Even as okay, as even 16, a little bit older, right? Even at 16, I had to duck under his legs because he was so tall and so big. I couldn't go around him. He would try to guard the hallway entrance at his house, so I would go under his actual legs,
Yeah.
escape him, and he would hit my butt. I'm like, really?
Well, his wife used to sleep in the bedroom and he used to sleep in the front room, but it was like opposite the bathroom. And when he would come in, he'd come in and he'd kiss both me and his daughter. And I'd just close my eyes and pretend I was asleep, but I couldn't breathe. I could remember until he left, I couldn't breathe. And I always hated that smell of his like pipe and his even
Oh my God!
I
Wait, wait,
can't.
wait. He had a pipe. But he had a
Yeah,
pipe. My
yeah.
grandpa had a pipe too. He had a pipe too. A lot of times before he had tobacco in his actual mouth, he had a pipe too.
I feel sick. Even like I felt sick every time I smelled like whiskey up until I was about probably in my 30s. It was only my best friend. I love her to bits and she's always kissing me. And then she makes me coffees with whiskey in it. And she's African. You don't say no to an African woman, especially not my sister. And she'd say, oh, have a coffee. And she'd pour a bit of whiskey in it. And I'd feel like gagging. But like, I didn't ever say anything to her because, like, you know yourself, I've never really spoke about what happened in my past. I kind of like I did when I was younger. I went for counselling and stuff, but I just put it all behind me. I kind of dealt with it, you know. I don't feel any guilt. I know it wasn't my fault. I dealt with all that side, and I didn't realise until probably I started talking about it again recently, how upset I do get. And I hate that about me because I don't want to be upset anymore. I don't want it to affect me anymore. It's my past.
Yeah, but you know what though? Here's the thing, right? That's my goal too. But I think from what I've already learned, until the day we're gone off this earth and we're in heaven with God, for even maybe even 2 years, you have no thought of your abuser. You have a happy life. Nightmares can still come. Something still happens. That's why you
Sharon,
still go for it.
I forgave them. I don't like them. I don't want to be around them. In fact, I can't. They disgust me. But I forgave them because I carried so much hate around with me. I mean, the thoughts, especially not even as a Christian, but as a human being, I wanted to torture the bastard all my life. I spent so long just wanting to die or kill him. That's quite psychotic, you know.
Well, I said
And
my story how I was young, like
yeah,
under like what, like I was 7 or 8. I wanted had a knife in church. I wanted to kill him in church for it to stop, just to stop abusing me. And it's
yeah.
not normal, but it's normal for us because we're being
I used to
abused.
sit there sometimes before I tried to kill myself and think of the things I wanted to do to him, to kill him. And it wasn't slow, it was nasty, you know? So
Hmm.
people that think, you know, I pretend to be something, I don't. I don't, you know, if you know me professionally, you know me professionally. If you know me because I'm having a laugh, I'm having a laugh. I don't talk about my past a lot because it is in the past. I find my healing, I know it's very selfish, but I find my healing seeing other people smile, seeing other people heal. And
Yep.
I feel I have a lot, but with the PTSD, it still comes back. Like I said, with a smell. Even if you don't get anything like that, it's like you can wake up in a dream and think you're still there, and you don't come straight out of it, or you're still there,
I
you
can hear
know,
you. Yes.
half an hour afterwards.
Oh
You're
yeah.
still, your mind's still in that dream, trying to make come back to reality.
Well, yeah, but you do know that I've read this on some articles that when it happens to you, I've heard that by accident you have no idea it's happening to you, but I have heard you can like what's that word out of body experience, right? Where it happens,
Yeah.
and what's I don't the name it Jordan is what it is, but it's when you've been abused so hard you have an out of body
You
experience.
actually turn yourself
Oh, astral
off.
project. There it is. Astral project.
I think the fact that I could almost do that in my own, I don't know if it's in the same way others would describe, but because I had a lot of abuse and it was from young, I did have a point where I could just close off and it wasn't happening to me. It was like I was looking at it happening to someone else rather than me. So it still felt traumatic, but I cut myself off. And I think that helped me not to lose it when I was speaking to the pedophiles on the line. You know, some people might have gone, oh, but I used to think, no, I can cut myself off because I know at the end of this, when he arranged is to meet a fucking 9-year-old kid or a 10-year-old kid for sex, and he's perpetrated it. He's added a child he doesn't even fucking know because she doesn't exist. He doesn't know her parents or her family because they don't exist. He's initiated a conversation with that child, be it a boy or a girl, and then he's tried to set up an arrangement where he can meet with that child so he can do what he wants with that child. And to me, for a long time I could cut it off, but after a while it caused me a lot of depression. I had to come away from it because I was getting really, really down, depressed. It was making me sick, physically sick. I don't regret doing it at all, but it did make me very ill. I lost a baby through the stress because it's court cases. It's like there's a lot that does go into it as well. But I had the huge support of like Maggie Chapman, and we had a team together. So it was, it was all good then. But like I said, it wasn't about me. It was about the kids then. I guess I'm not so much of a strong person when it comes to my own past and my own abuse.
Yeah, but you'll get there though. You're gonna get there. It takes time to get there. You're still healing.
Yeah, I've got good friends. And like,
Yes. Yes.
that's the thing. I was so arrogant because I thought I had healed, you know. But I guess sometimes the fact that you can't just open your mouth and go, yes, this did happen to me. I shouldn't be ashamed and I should be able to say it. I don't have to say it at dinner, breakfast, lunch, and tea, like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not something I should particularly say, oh, I don't want this one to know, or I don't want, you know.
It's your choice though. It is your choice if you want to tell your son
I guess
or friends or family.
I never wanted to be looked at like a victim because I don't feel like one. I did, but I don't.
I just heard. Okay, Robert's back in chat. I think he wants to come back on.
Oh, brilliant.
You can
Do you
stay
want,
on here or you can go. Whatever you want to do. It don't
what
matter.
would you prefer me to do? I don't mind.
You can be on if you want and just mute yourself,
I'll mute
and
myself,
then
okay.
yep, he'll tell us the rest of the story, and then you can talk to him if you want to, or ask
Uh-huh.
him a question. He's really a good guy. I'm very proud of him doing this.
I am so proud of him. If you can hear
Yes,
me, I'd just like to say, because I am going to mute myself, you're on the box, babe. I fucking love you. And you're not fat, you're not nothing, you're gorgeous. You're bloody
Robert is
gorgeous.
not
They're
fat and
just
ugly. Hell
arseholes.
no.
Hell no. He's gorgeous. Ocean eyes.
Robert has the awesome. I keep telling him he's got the awesome eyes for a dude, man. He's got awesome eyes. He's got a great soul. He's got humor. He
He
is a
has. And
warrior.
you know what? It's usually the people that have great souls that gets let down a lot. And I'm very sorry, Robert, but I hope now you've found your support. I'm here if I can do anything, and I know Sharon will too. So, and I'm going to mute myself now because I'd rather listen to you than me. Love yous guys.
Okay,
Bye.
I'm waiting on Robert to see if he's gonna come back on or not. Um, I'm gonna hang on. I'm going to excuse myself for 1 moment. I will be right back. Give me a few minutes. Uh, Robert, you come on. Give me a few minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm sorry about that for a few minutes. So I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure if Robert wants to come back on here or not. Um, Robert, if you want to come back on here, you can. If not, we can do a part two. Um, Okay, how about we just do this? How about we'll do a part 2 and pick off where we left off? I have to go real quick anyway. I've got an emergency. So I want to thank Robert for being here, Angel for your testimony too, Artist, Avalon, Generations, thank you for being in chat. Thank you so much, Robert, for coming forward. And again, we'll have part 2 and we shall pick up where we left off. I must go right now, and I want to say thank you to my supporters and keep going forward. Survivors of CSA, TIs, just keep going forward. If you need me, I'm on Facebook. If you need Angel, of course, Facebook. I want Robert to have support also, of course. His GoFundMe campaign is in my chat and on my description. Please help Robert have the goals. Let's go ahead and get this set up for him. Yet again, I want to help him and all survivors. Never give up. Keep going forward, guys. I love you all, and God bless. Have a great evening. Until next time, spread love and not slander, and choose love over hate. Okay? We are a family. We'll go forward this. We will keep going forward. We will always fight back until we see justice. Have a great night, guys. God bless.